Hello, I'm Brett Knowles from PM2 Consulting. This vignette provides a brief overview of the best practices we've picked up over 20 years of helping organizations identify performance metrics which already exist in their organizations. You see, the problem is this. With many of our clients, when we help them build a scorecard, they look at the strategic objective in question and they eventually conclude they have to begin collecting something new. Here's what we know. A recent IBM survey identified that leadership teams use only about 7% of the data collected when they make their leadership decisions. In a world where 93% of the data isn't used, we have to believe that somewhere out there are performance indicators which we could use in our organization. We merely need a tool to help identify them. Here's the trick we've learned. Any process or strategic objective has required inputs, transformations, and outputs, whether something as simple as improving sales or improving customer satisfaction, employee satisfaction, or other nebulous things. Let's take an example. Let's say for an airline, if one of their objectives is to keep their airplanes in the air as long as possible, or conversely, on the ground as little as possible, their focus needs to be on fast ground turnaround time. Well, inputs to help them turn the plane around quickly are things like, is the fuel, galley, and lav trucks there on time? Do we get our passengers ready to get loaded up on the plane quickly? Have we got the ground crew ready and the jetway and all those sorts of things? So we could measure all of those as indicators on whether we're going to be able to push back and get in the air on time. But they're just inputs. We could also look at the transformations. We could list off all the things we do to convert those inputs into outputs. So things like actually cleaning the planes, actually loading the passengers, actually fueling it, and so forth. Likewise, there's a series of outputs. Things like, have we handed off the plane? Have we retracted the jetway? Have we parked the pushback tug? Have we cleared the gate? All those things are output indicators. Now, with all these lists, you could then begin to take a look at what of this data do we already collect, and of the ones that we already collect, which is the best indicator to begin with. Granted, you might want to make it better later, but let's at least start with something so we can begin operating the scorecard. So in this technique, we've been able to help organizations do a couple of things. One is identify existing indicators. Two, allow a cross-functional team to participate in selecting the indicators. And three, inevitably find a scorecard indicator that is good enough to begin with. And more often than not, we find that that scorecard indicator is good for some period of time because the high need is not around getting the metrics better, but how we manage the business better. So this technique allows us to quickly become operational in our scorecards. To learn about this and other techniques in more detail, please join us at pm2consulting.com.